to address the issues facing Tennesseans today. From 10 News, this is Inside Tennessee.
Good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm John North, your moderator this morning. John Becker is away. Our guest this morning is Congressman Chuck Fleischmann of Tennessee's 3rd Congressional District. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with him. His district does indeed touch upon our viewing area, so it's great to have you, Congressman. Welcome. We'll be chatting with you, but let me first introduce our panelists. We have our usual, our regulars, our go-to folks. We've got Susan Richardson-Williams, who is a Republican and a public relations consultant, and we have Democrat Don Bosch, who is an attorney. Welcome to you both. It's good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, Congressman,
I'll
lead off with the first question. Welcome, sir. And I just wondered, in terms of the 3rd District, what are your goals this year in terms of things you would like to accomplish?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. First and foremost, as most of our viewers know, I'm Tennessee's only member on the House Appropriations Committee, and that is going to remain that way, at least for the short-term future. So we are working, believe it or not, even this week on trying to get appropriations completed for fiscal 2022, and then we will begin hearings for fiscal 2023. Why is appropriation so important? Because obviously all of the key missions at Oak Ridge, whether it's ORNL, Y-12, UPF, or our Great Cleanup Mission, we have got to get the federal funds for that, as well as handling federal funding for the rest of the state. All folks pretty much reach out to me for that discretionary spending part of the puzzle. So I'll be working on appropriations. I'll be coming through, of course, and visiting all my wonderful East Tennessee counties and meeting with constituents as well.
Thank you, sir. Don Bosch.
Chuck, good morning. Nice to see you again. It's interesting you're talking about being on appropriations, and I know one of the great difficulties and frankly public frustrations is what seems to be every few months the looming threat of governmental shutdowns because we can't pass a budget. Do you foresee any sort of longer term relief where we can do something that's more than stopgap for a few months before we waste countless hours of time and energy and going through this same dance where it always seems at the last minute we get something passed, but we've wasted a lot of time? What do you think you might be able to influence or do as a member, the ranking member, I might add? Not the ranking member of subcommittee, but as a member of appropriations?
Don, that's an excellent question, and I share that frustration, and we've had that really since I've been in Congress. Some years it works better than others. But to address your question directly, the fiscal year began October the 1st. We did a continuing resolution to December. We did another one into February, and unfortunately this week there'll be another short-term CR, probably to about March the 11th. Therein lay the problem. Government shutdown is really not a risk per se right now. It has happened in the past. Sometimes it's been one party's fault or the other. But the real problem is these short-term continuing resolutions instead of a year-long budget. What does that mean? It means it's much harder for the government agencies which we fund. I'll be specific. DOE, our mission at Oak Ridge, is so critically important. They don't know exactly what their bottom line numbers are going to be. So shutdowns don't really loom per se right now, but these continuing resolutions eat into the fiscal year, making it very difficult to budget.
Susan?
Chuck, let's talk a little bit about issues. The president has been talking about Build Back Better for months, and I know it's a major Senate issue because Senator Manchin and so forth, but what are you hearing? Do you think we're going to get any part of the Build Back Better approved in the House and Senate?
At this point in time, no. And let me address that for several issues and several reasons. First of all, I opposed the BBB plan as it was crafted by House Democrats and House Senate members, and of course the White House. They loaded it up with every left of center Christmas tree issue, if they were to have focused on real transportation, real infrastructure issues that the vast majority of Americans, not necessarily on the left or right, but in the center, could embrace and say, this is a good bill, we could have gotten there. But no, they didn't do that. They wrote a very radically left-wing bill. And what happened basically was both Senators Sinema and Senators Manchin both refused to erode the filibuster rule, and I agree with that, whether you're a Republican or Democrat. That is in place for a reason in the Senate rules. They refused to do that. But there has actually been another sad development. My friend, Senator Lujan from New Mexico, and he is a friend. We have a very different voting record, but we work together on DOE issues because he has the Los Alamos reservation. I have the Oak Ridge reservation. We have worked together for years on nuclear cleanup and other key DOE issues. Unfortunately, the senator had a very serious stroke a little over a week ago, and I wish him a speedy recovery. But it's going to be quite some time before he can actually get back and participate in the Senate business. So to answer your question, for all of those reasons, BBB will be stalled. If they do come back with a bill that is closer to what the vast majority of Americans could embrace, I would certainly take a look at it.
So, Chuck, I'm interested, and do we need to take a break, John?
We've got a couple
Or do we-
minutes, or
okay, good.
about 30 seconds.
You described some of the BBB programs that were, quote, snuck into the bill as radical and left of center. I mean, do you consider things like permanent child tax credits, child care, internet connectivity, things of that nature within the Build America Back, or Build Back Better? Are those radical left? Last I've heard, most of America is interested in help with those very things.
Most of America did not support the child tax credits, and has created tremendous havoc. And of course, that has ceased to exist. That no longer exists. That program has stopped. The situation on broadband, we can certainly look at broadband, but when we look at, unfortunately, what the Democrats put into this bill, and Don, when they realized it wasn't going to pass, what they did is they went to their left wing of their party and said, load it up. If it's going to fail, let it fail with a radical left wing agenda to please the progressives. That's basically practically what they did. But as far as broadband, certainly we would be glad to look at broadband. But right now, the federal government, because of its spending, is $30 trillion in debt. We don't need anything the size of BBB, and we certainly don't need the left-wing agenda stuck in there. Stick to the center, stick to mainstream issues that the vast majority of Americans can support, and then we'll take a look at it.
We're talking to East Tennessee Congressman Chuck Fleischmann. It's time for a break. You're watching Inside Tennessee, but we're coming back, so don't go anywhere.